no one with their right mind is going to think that this action is going to secure the border. I remember Jay Johnson saying 1,000 people a day at the border was a crisis. He's saying 2.5 times that, which equals out to like over 900,000 people a year. That's okay.
Right. When Joe Biden took over, he bragged about, his staff joked about too many executive orders to count. They literally went up there and said, watch us embrace overturning everything Donald Trump did, and they were praised for it. Now when the whole thing falls apart and we have murders, rapes, burglaries, assaults, we have drugs pouring into our communities, killing American citizens, Joe Biden looks around like these things are happening to him when they're happening because of him. The American people know it, and quite frankly, 2 years ago, they didn't.
They've railed about disinformation, misinformation on everything from COVID to what we're seeing with Hunter Biden and the laptop and the Russiagate hoax. But they're never going to go back and clean it up, because that's going to force them to admit their own naked bias. And they don't want to get rid of that bias. They want to continue to hold water for Biden, ensure that he gets back in a few months from now, or stays in office in a few months from now, and protect Kamala Harris, so that hopefully there could be a continuation of the Obama legacy.
All right, guys, here we are, one day away from the weekend. I'm so excited. It's June. I know officially summer doesn't start till the 20th, but I love this time of the season. We are, 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks away from the first debate, 5 weeks away from the RNC. A brutal story in the Wall Street Journal that just came out about concern, not just from Republicans, but they talked to 45 different people, both sides of the party over a couple months, about concerns with Joe Biden and how he's, not with it. We've known this. Didn't take a story in the Wall Street Journal to say it, but now they got it. I'm going to talk to the panel about that. Plus, Hunter Biden, his court appearances. It's going to be interesting. I've got my own take on this. I'll be interested to see what the panel says. A lot to get to with them. And should Trump seek retribution? A lot of folks, you heard Steve Bannon the other day talk about that. Well, it's not just Steve Bannon. A lot of people are saying it's time for Republicans and Donald Trump to fight back and go after these people that have used the system to go after him. All right, we've got a lot to break down. An amazing panel today. Patrice Onwuka, who is the better part of the co-host team there at O'Connor and Company, and a fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Plus Hogan Gidley, former Trump White House Deputy Press Secretary and National Press Secretary for the Trump campaign, and now the Vice Chair for the Center of Election Integrity at America First Policy. Plus Marc Lotter. He's also over there, Chief Communications Officer at America First Policy and former Chief Spokesman for Vice President Mike Pence. Let's get the panel in and get going. All right, guys, welcome. Good to see you. Here we are, one day away from the weekend. Never disappoints. I mean, summer's usually a quiet time in Washington. Not so much. Mark, I'll start with you because I can see you right there. This Wall Street Journal story that comes out. I mean, I get it. I know you tweeted out the other day. I mean, it didn't take a story to tell us what we know, but this is the headline. Behind closed door, Biden shows signs of slipping. Participants in meetings say the 81-year-old president performed poorly at times. The White House said Biden is sharp and his critics are playing partisan politics. All right, Mark, are his critics playing partisan politics?
Breaking news, the sky's blue. No, this is the reality that we all see. And Sean, you know it so well, and so does the rest of this panel. The worst thing politicians can do is try to convince the American people what they see with their own eyes isn't real. And so this Wall Street Journal article confirms it. We see it with our own eyes, and it's just another disaster. And why I think the White House is doubling down on not releasing the recording of the Robert Hur interview.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's the interesting thing. As I kept trying to figure out why that was such a big deal. And then we start to hear these stories, Patrice, that they don't want the transcript released because it tells a very different story than the written version that got put out. It clearly does not show Biden at his best.
Well, absolutely. Good to see everybody. I mean, I think that it suggests that not only is the oral transcript, the recording, it's going to have a lot of ums, maybe pauses, uncomfortable pauses, the kinds that people don't like to listen to and start to wonder, is something wrong with the person who's speaking? Are they either they don't understand the question, or they're spacing out, or maybe they're just trying to hide something. And so that is what fills in the gaps and fills in the blanks between what we've seen in the written transcript and what the actual report said, and her assessment of the president, which is why he didn't bring charges against him. I mean, it's hilarious that Democrats are saying, "Oh, there are no charges." Well, her said it's because he would come off as an old grandpa and would be sympathetic to a jury, not because there wasn't evidence. And so this just speaks to that.
I think it's partly what you're saying, that the who's that guy, but it's also they clearly doctored the transcript. So it's what really was said versus what they said was said. But Hogan, as a former senior White House press aide, I wanted to get your tabs on this. This is the part that I thought was great in the story. The White House kept close tabs. This is the Wall Street Journal on some of the Wall Street Journal's interviews with Democratic lawmakers. After the offices of several Democrats shared with the White House either a recording of an interview or details about what was asked, some of those lawmakers spoke to the Journal a second time and once again emphasized Biden's strengths. Quote, "They just, said that I should give you a call back," said Congressman Greg Meeks, a New York Democrat, referring to the White House. This sounds very much like Russia. "Comrade, you will call them back and give them better answer. You hear what I say? Or we come visit your family tonight."
First of all, horrible Russian accent.
Dude, come on.
Just horrible.
With all of our
However-
links. Wait a second.
however-
Lotter's laughing. I'm thinking for all the control that Russia had over us, you'd think I'd have a better
That's
Russian
true.
accent.
That's true. That's true. For all the collusion you participated in, Sean, you
I
ought
know.
to be much better off using a Russian. Maybe speak Russian at this point. Listen, this is so problematic because, as Mark pointed out, it's so obvious. Everyone sees the cognitive decline. Everyone sees the mental decline. In fact, after Trump was convicted, one of the best tweets I saw kind of won the day, in my opinion, was when they said he ought to say during a debate, Donald Trump should look at Biden and say, "At least they found me mentally competent to stand trial." Like, you're clearly, not with it anymore. This kind of story is so interesting because we know what he's like in public. This is another example of what he's like in private, where if you think it's bad with what you see, imagine what you don't see. And now you have a myriad of Democrat colleagues not afraid to say, "Hey, yeah, he's got some problems." And then on top of that, take that cue from the White House and call back and go, "Hey, no, I know I said he wasn't with it, but they told me, no, I have to say he's with it now." I mean, how horrible of a look is this for Joe Biden and this administration?
Dude, I love it, though, that the Wall Street Journal actually printed it. They were like, we got a call. We're in big trouble. We're supposed to say that he's totally good. You know what it is? It's like one of those, remember the pause line when Biden was reading the thing and he wrote, pause. It's sort of like they call back and go, "Hello, we are supposed to call you back and say that he is very sharp and with it. We also said that he is a great, great leader. He is dear leader." All right. Well, before I continue, I want to say, the one thing that people always talk about in Washington is if you really need a friend, you should get a pet. Well, I'll tell you who's done a lot for animal lovers, my buddy Leo Grillo. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can check out all the great work that Leo has done. It's not just people in Washington that need a pet. He has taken this to a whole new level, caring for animals, rescuing them, creating this no-kill sanctuary, not a shelter. If you've heard before, this isn't like the place that you go rescue animals, the local animal shelter. He provides a no-kill sanctuary for life, provides that nutritional care, that veterinarian care that so many dogs, cats, horses need. And it's all because of the work of Leo Grillo. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can check out the videos. When you do that, you'll be as compelled as I was to think about how we can help deltarescue.org. Please consider a contribution, 5, 10, 1,000. Bob Menendez, if you're watching, I'm talking a full gold bar. You can do it. I know you can. And then while you're there, check out the estate planning kit. Please continue to help make this an enduring mission that Leo can continue to help these animals for years to come. Mark, I think that we talk about this all the time, about the different types of treatment. And it's now gotten out more and more where Republicans, and it's not just Steve Bannon, who are saying, Steve said, let's go Old Testament, an eye for an eye. Talked about this on the show, but we've gotten this down, this New York Times story that came out this week. That's more people are saying, I'm tired of the rhetoric and the letters, if you will, that are coming out. Mike Davis has been talking about that. Hey, stop with the letters, take action. Go after these guys, local DAs, get motivated. Stop just talking the good talk and expressing concerns. Is that the right tactic? Should we be saying, okay, guys, we've been playing fair for long enough. It's time for us to go on offense.
I think it depends on the message and who the audience is. If you're saying that to Steve Bannon's podcast audience, that's what they want to hear. But if you're trying to win over those last few undecided voters in Wisconsin, I don't think they want to know any of that. They just want people to lower their gas prices, secure the border, deal with the wars. So I liked the president's answer to that question over the weekend when he said, my greatest retribution, my greatest revenge will be America's success. Success will be our revenge. And I think that's a great place. Now, if somebody we find out broke the law, went beyond the law, tried to hide documents or do whatever, then I think that we should definitely look into pursuing criminal action if they broke the law, but not because they lost politically.
You know, Patrice, it's funny. I mean, Trump brought this up in this interview with Fox and Friends with reference to what he could have done with Hillary. He said, I could have done that, i.e. lock her up, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me, and I may feel very differently about it. It's like the Republicans, and specifically Donald Trump, get pegged with this retribution thing all the time. It's Democrats who actually went after him, impeached him twice, have gone after him with this lawfare, gone after his kids and his family and all this. So ironically, the tag gets put against Donald Trump and what's he going to do? But yet he's been actually the victim of it.
Well, it's so interesting. I mean, Axios had this piece framing it as pretty much the Trump administration's hit list for, once they get in office, and look out for whoever the attorney general would be who would fill that slot. It's actually funny. I think there's a tacit admission that he's going to be president again. But but they're saying look for whoever is going to be a MAGA supporting ultra, retributionist attorney general to go after those folks. And what I loved out of that, what President Trump said, is that it would have been harmful to the country, because actually he was thinking about unifying the country, and going after Hillary Clinton would not have been a unifying tactic. Now, I happen to be one of those conservatives who says, let's continue to be principled, take the high road. I'm not afraid of a fight, but I also worry that, after a while, the tit for tat leaves everybody blind.
Right.
I guess the Bible says, an eye for an eye, but that was the Old Testament. That was the Old Covenant. And I think we are under a new dispensation where we can win people's hearts. We can also win and knock these people out of office who absolutely are using lawfare and every other means they can to unfairly win. And Americans are seeing that. They don't have to be college educated to recognize when someone is getting railroaded by the system, the way a lot of regular people get railroaded by the justice system.
So, Hogan, why is it always our side that has to be the better people, right? They do all this to us, and time again, it's like, well, we're better than them, we're higher than them, we're not going to go after them. They don't care. Like it's funny. I was sitting there today, all of this discussion in the media about misinformation, and yet it's Casey Hunt on CNN, Wolf Blitzer on CNN, all the guys on MSNBC who lie about the 51 intelligence agencies. It's Hunter Biden that is brought up for lying on a gun charge, and a party and a media that complains about gun violence. We'll get to this in a minute. But it's like, why are we the ones who constantly have to sit back and say, okay, we'll be better than them? I mean, this story that Patrice mentions in Axios, Jim Jordan told Fox News that he wants to defund lawfare activities. But yet when we do that, we're interfering in the rule of law. When they do it, it's good government. And I'm like, at some point, we can't win this battle if we don't just say, I'm sorry, who cares what everyone else thinks? We need to play on the same field as they do.
Yeah. So many things to say here, Sean.
Well, good. Guess what?
I'm with you on this, actually. I say go after them at every single turn, because mutually assured destruction is a hell of a deterrent. And if you're going to keep coming after us over and over and over again and weaponize government to go after our elected officials, then everything should be on the table to go after you as well, politically, with lawfare. And that's important to me because, as you just said, I'm so sick and tired of us on our side. And the left will say they do it too. So it's whatever. We will say, no, we can't do that because we're more for high-minded ideals and making sure that our ideas get out there. And that's what's going to win the day. I don't know that it will, because we have been so tarnished by the left just for standing up for life, for example, And they're not just going after Donald Trump, they're going after American citizens for their political beliefs. I mean, if you sit outside of an abortion clinic and sing and pray, you're going to jail. If
Yeah,
you show up in
look at
Loudoun
Harrison.
County
I mean,
to protest your daughter being raped by a trans person in a bathroom, it's you that goes to jail.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing is happening, and I'm sick and tired of sitting around going, "Hey, but if we get elected again, we'll calm the temperatures."
Right.
We were elected. They came after us with impeachment 1 and 2, a collusion, a Russia hoax narrative, Lafayette Square lies, China, Wuhan virus lies, the Hunter Biden laptop, the Ashley Biden diary. They went after us on everything. And we just sat around and went, okay, how come it's us we're always the ones that want to bring the temperature down, but it's them who say it's the Republicans who are doing all these things. They blame us for things they are guilty of actually doing.
Yeah.
I think there's a time and a place for us to start going after them in the right way, in the right manner, and saying enough is enough. And once you realize nuclear weapons are pointed at both parties, I think then it comes down. Until then, we're just going to keep getting kicked around.
I mean, not to keep this thing going, but you think about Harrison Butker, right? All he does, that kicker for the Chiefs, he says, hey, here are my beliefs, Catholic beliefs. And it's like, we have to all denounce him. Everybody gets out there. What do you think about him? How bad is he? And he's like, all he's doing is expressing his faith, which I cannot believe. Then you look at Fauci, who gets up there and goes, 6 feet, I've kind of made it up. 10, too big. 3, too small. 6 is good. And they're all like, oh, Mr. Fauci, that was so nice. At the end of the day, that's called misinformation. He talked, and yet no consequence. The guy's going to continue to make a ton of cash and be revered by the left and the media. And here we are going, wait, he literally lied about anybody that questioned it.
No accountability.
No. And Mark, I want to pivot because the other big thing that, well, obviously I'm going to get to Hunter in just a little bit, but I want to talk about this border policy that I was shocked when I watched the NBC view of this. And Lester Holt was like, President Biden today put flip the script on Republicans. And I'm like, flip the script? What are you talking about? 3.5 years later, the guy suddenly lied about he couldn't do anything and suddenly now he can. And I was like, what the heck? Republicans on defense? No. We have like a 50-point majority on this issue. I don't understand. So let me just bottom line this for you as a communicator and as a strategist. Do you think the White House's move, net, was a good, positive move for them when it came to this issue of saying that we're going to, quote, close the border when it gets over 2,500 illegals coming through on a daily basis?
Well, if I was advising them, I'd say no, because you did what you're doing again with the Israel-Hamas war. You just ticked off everybody. So the radical left is angry at Biden for this action. Republicans know that it's just a charade and a sham and not actually going to do anything. So what did you actually do? No one with their right mind is going to think that this action is going to secure the border. I remember Jay Johnson saying 1,000 people a day at the border was a crisis. He's saying 2.5 times that, which equals out to like over 900,000 people a year. That's okay.
Right.
And here's the dirty little secret, though, is that what they're trying to do is actually push everyone through their horrible CPB-1 app, which they're not reporting those numbers on.
Yes.
So trust me, the illegal immigrants are still coming in. They're just being routed and not reported. And he just made the cartels rich because you can now get like upgraded service if you want to be one of the 2,500, pay to be business class.
Yeah.
Patrice, to Mark's point, though, I got to believe that somehow polling drove this decision. Obviously, you're right. I mean, the left has come out being like, oh, my God, amnesty for everybody. And the right wasn't happy. But there had to be some middle ground that their polling told them this was going to work with.
Well, obviously, I think the southern border is one of the 3 huge vulnerabilities that President Biden has right now in this election. And it's funny, because he's pretending to close the border, which we know is not true. But what about the millions of illegal immigrants who are already here, posing heavy cost on public resources in a lot of Democratic-run cities where, some of those key coalition groups, the Hispanics, minorities, Blacks, are feeling the pressure of crime, of increased demand on their public resources by the millions of illegal immigrants who are already here, who many of them are not working. So it's a little bit of a shell game. It's a little bit to get the Lester Holtz of the world and the George Stephanopouloses to say, oh yeah, President Biden is doing something about this issue. But the people on the ground who they really need to turn out, not just, or at least not sit at home, are not going to be fooled by this, because I think they recognize these people are already here. And by the way, President Trump is the only one talking about a mass deportation if he gets to be reelected. So that's still a stronger position. I agree with Mark. He's not going to be able to dig into President Trump's lead on this specific issue.
Hogan, you guys in America First Policy, I know Chad Wolf was out there putting out, I mean, what is sort of the right Republican response right now? Because I feel like some Republicans sort of are like, it's too late. And I think for a lot of voters, they don't really necessarily care that it's too late or whatever. They want to know if it's effective or not. And I think the question I have is, I think the smart move is to say this isn't going to be effective.
It doesn't work. And here's how you know. Forget all the nuance of what's in this executive order, which we'll go down and discuss, of course. It doesn't close the border. And here's how you know, simple test, because the left and the media like it. They point to consistently over and over again how there was a bipartisan bill in the Senate that could have passed.
Right.
It didn't pass because it could not pass. There was a bill in the House that passed a long time ago, H.R. 2, and it did close the border, and the Senate wouldn't bring it up. The media rejected it. Biden hated it because it actually closed the border. So it's real simple here. Whenever the media and the Democrats like it, you know it's not going to work, or it's only going to work to hurt your bottom line. People are flooding into this country illegally. Joe Biden, first and foremost, said that the border was closed. There isn't a crisis, isn't a problem. So isn't that weird he even had a press conference to begin with? Then he says, I can't do anything about it, even though from the executive branch, I caused all these problems, but somehow it requires a legislative solution. That doesn't make any sense either. So the American people understand this, that when Joe Biden took over, he bragged about, his staff joked about too many executive orders to count. They literally went up there and said, watch us embrace overturning everything Donald Trump did, and they were praised for it. Now, when the whole thing falls apart and we have murders, rapes, burglaries, assaults, we have drugs pouring into our communities, killing American citizens between 1845, the number one killers, fentanyl, coming across that Mexican border, human trafficking, child smuggling, all the things the Mexican cartels are doing is a result of that. And Joe Biden looks around like these things are happening to him when they're happening because of him. The American people know it. And quite frankly, 2 years ago, they didn't. It was only when Republican governors, as we talked about in the previous segment, got tough and sent all those people into the communities of the people who said they wanted illegal aliens there. And then all of a sudden they realized what a disaster it was. And now Joe Biden, weeks, months before an election, says, I found Jesus. No way. No one's buying that.
No, I just hope that enough people are paying attention. And I think that's what they're hoping for, is that enough people aren't paying attention to the day-to-day machinations of how bad it is.
Hey, real quick. What's going to happen is the courts are going to enjoin this. He's going to say, see, I tried. However, he didn't care about courts when they said you can't mandate vaccines for 80 million people. He just put it through OSHA.
No. So
student loan relief.
Supreme Court
that's it. No. What Mark just
student loans. He just said, I'm doing it. This one issue, all of a sudden, he's going to be beholden to the court. Give me a break.
No. I think that's it. This is their way. They know that it's not going to end. You're absolutely right. This was their way of saying, we tried, the courts stopped us, and we now care today about the courts that we didn't care about when it came to student loans, et cetera. I mean, exactly it. This is so blatant. And the media is going to then blame the Trump appointees on the courts for blocking his attempt to do this. I mean, this is like set up from jump. They knew exactly what they were doing. But like so many Biden policies, that one's bad, and so many other ones are causing high interest rates and inflation. For that reason, one of the things that I've done is invested in gold. The place that I go right now is Bishop Gold Group. I urge you, I know you're getting hit up all over the place about different ads. Costco's selling it, ads all over the place. If you're someone who's thinking about diversifying your income, maybe you have an old 401k or an IRA, call my friends at Bishop Gold Group, 1-800-984-1616, or go to bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean, SEAN, bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean. That's where I put my money. I invest with them because they've got the knowledge. I trust them. They're full of integrity, and they can talk to you about the strategy that works for you. So if you're interested in doing something like this, trust the people that I did when I wanted to diversify and invest in precious metals. Plus, if you go to bishopgoldgroup.com/Sean, you'll get a free gift and a little promotion for starting with me. So that's even better. It's like a win-win. In the Biden economy, you're not going to get any of that. All right. Mark, actually, Patrice, I'm going to start with you because this is the topic I wanted to get to. This Hunter Biden charge. I don't even know where to start with this, but let's just go with this. The media loves to talk about right now, Republicans who have bashed the judiciary are suddenly all for it. And I'm like, no, I haven't bashed the judiciary. I actually think that Alvin Bragg is a bad guy. And I think that Judge Marchand, that doesn't make the whole judiciary bad. I think that these two cases, in my mind, couldn't be more diametrically opposed. Donald Trump didn't have a jury of his peers. He was in a city 95-5. That's not your peers. I have a lot of people who don't like me, but it's not 95-5, right? It might be 50-50. And so to go somewhere, what Hogan?
80-20.
81. Yeah. Thanks, brother. But I feel like, okay, so you look at the jury, 95-5 for Trump, and then Hunter in Delaware, where it's like 99-1. They basically named the courthouse after his dad. Mm-hmm. And number two is in Trump's case, there was no smoking gun. It was Michael Cohen, the biggest moron, claiming that he had this conversation that no one could verify. Where in Hunter Biden, he's literally, his own words were used against him because in court, they played his audiobook where he talks about being high as a kite over and over again. They have text messages that show him asking for drugs for drug dealers. I mean, there couldn't be a bigger contrast in this case.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the testimony of his ex-wife, his ex-girlfriend, he was smoking cocaine every 20 minutes, something like that. It's damaging. But I kind of feel like this case is throw Hunter under the bus to appease conservative criticism that, it's really, that lawfare is really not a thing, that obviously if the president's son can be prosecuted, then obviously that means that the former president should be prosecuted. And I think you're right. These are not the same cases. I think they're trying to downplay Hunter's case, trying to make it seem like, it's just a guy who had a drug issue. He made some bad choices. And, don't we all have a family member who's dealing with drug issues?
Oh, well, by the way, I think it's like 8 out of the 12 jurors have a family member on the poll who had a drug issue. And that's great. By the way, this is kind of like Trump. This isn't about Stormy Daniels. This isn't about an addiction. It's whether or not you lied on a federal form, Mark. And that's what I find fascinating. There's no question he lied on the form. And the thing that's so fascinating to me is the coverage of this. Again, we're losing track of what the crime was. And the idea, it says in one of the stories, Abby Lowell, who's Hunter's attorney, repeatedly defected blame towards Hallie, who was Beau Biden's ex-wife, who was, quote, romantically involved with Hunter. Who else? I mean, unless somebody else filled out the form, I still don't get it. What is so difficult about this? Here's the form. This is a federal firearms application. It says that you aren't currently using drugs or have an addiction problem. You wrote that you didn't. That's a lie. Boom. Here are your words. Here are your text messages. Here's the testimony. Mark, I don't understand. To me, they're trying to make this about everybody, but, and the sympathetic idea of his addiction as opposed to whether or not he lied.
Well, they have to. I mean, that's the only defense they have because the evidence is so overwhelming. I'm not a lawyer. I only play one on TV. This is a cut and dry case. It's slam dunk. He did it. He admitted it. You've got it not only in his laptop, you've got it in his audio book. It's not even in question. They're just going to try to deflect and make it about his addiction, make it about his struggles. And by the way, those struggles are horrible. Yes. And if he's found guilty, which he should be, I hope he gets help. Mm-hmm. The trial I'm actually more focused on is the one in September, because that's the one where you're taking hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars from foreign governments, cheating on your taxes, and the whole Biden family crime syndicate.
By the way, one other thing that
kind of skeezy.
One of the other things that I want to get out of the way before I forget to say this, and at my age, I feel like I'm having my Biden moments. This idea that they're saying, see, it's an equal system of justice. Trump got prosecuted, and then we're going after Hunter. No. Hunter was about to get off through a diversion program. He would have not been here had it not been. They literally were like, "Dear Hunter, here is a sweetheart deal. Would you like it?" And he was like, "No, I don't want a sweetheart deal." And they're like, "Please take the sweetheart deal." I mean, he would not be in court had he just signed the deal that they gave him. This would have been swept under the rug, a diversion program, and expunged from his record. Anybody would have killed for that deal. But yet the dum-dum didn't sign it. Maybe he was, well, they won't.
It's arrogance.
The judge, this was the judge member said, "Wait a minute. Are you telling me basically that I've never seen a deal like this before? You're going to say he's now not guilty for anything else that could come up?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, no, I don't think so.
By the way, doesn't that make you wonder? I kept thinking when that, I'm with you. I'll let you go. But I just kept thinking the whole time that happened, that they were like, what else was there? It included the guns, the taxes, everything else. And they were like, no, it needs full immunity. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, what else have you done? What else?
Well, here's what's also interesting. Something that I thought during the campaign, so it infuriates me to no end. Literally put into evidence was the Hunter Biden laptop.
Oh, thank you.
All of the documents on it, all the pictures, all the evidence. What we were told that, I guess this whole trial then must be a Russian op, right?
Oh, wait.
This is so insane. The guy is on trial, as Mark pointed out, for something he clearly did. Lowell is trying to point to sympathy. Hey, look, I know he didn't fill out the thing right. I know he lied on it, but he was high at the time. Hey, listen, I know I ran over 6 people on the street yesterday, but in fairness, I was pretty drunk. I guess that's the way it works.
Well, and you can't, that's not, you're right. But for the same reason, that's not a legal defense. That is, you cannot say that's not an acceptable legal defense. Like, I was high. But by the way, the question is literally, are you high? I mean,
that's yes.
But I want to get back.
I want to real quick. Yeah, real quick. Mark's right too. This is about 10% for the big guy. I don't care about this gun charge. Although in this upcoming election, I am sorry. I do not want to hear one Democrat bring up a person paying their fair share in taxes, gun control, or white privilege, because this guy's the poster child for all of them.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask you, Hogan, because I thought it's so funny. And I want to, just so I'm putting a pin in this, because I do want to get back to the other charges / everything else is going on. But I can't help but notice this. Gavin Newsom put out these tweets, and I'm thinking to myself, dummy, do you not see what's happening right now? He put out a series of tweets asking people to sign this petition about ending gun violence. And I started tweeting at him. And I said, hey, maybe we should start by banning anyone who's currently addicted to drugs. Also, we should go after anyone who lies on a federal firearms application. Agreed, Gavin? Like, where are these guys, these Democrats who talk about restricting gun rights, going after law-abiding citizens, talk about people paying their fair share in taxes, and here's Hunter Biden, they're like, oh, poor Hunter. And I'm like, wait a second. You guys have literally rallied against all of the above. This guy does it, and you're like, I don't see anything over...
Sean,
I'm really wondering. I've heard really Abby Lowell... Go ahead, Hogan.
Wasn't he really young at the time when he did this? No, that's right. He was 50. Like, they act like he was some young kid just being wayward and goofy.
Oh, poor Hunty.
For heaven's sakes.
I mean,
just wait, because I hear Abby Lowell is actually going to argue that the check the box of using of drugs or have you used drugs is actually an unconstitutional restriction of the Second Amendment. Then my head will explode. You actually have the Biden saying, no, these gun restrictions are too strict.
Listen, I think it's very simple what we're seeing. The messaging is, you know what, we want to downplay this as an issue and make it seem as sympathetic as possible, and the president a sympathetic dad as possible. They don't want this to become an election issue. I don't think this is about the actual merits of the case as much as it is about public opinion and not allowing this to snowball into something that people are paying attention to.
So Hogan brought this up, Patrice. You're on the radio all the time. This idea of misinformation, I literally was watching this clip today. I tweeted it out. It was on Fox, where Casey Hunt, who was at MSNBC, then she got fired from there, so CNN picked her up because that's where stray dogs go. Wolf Blitzer, all these other people calling it misinformation. And yet here we are, the government, the Department of Justice, and not just that, but in the clip that they played on Fox, and I put it up on my Twitter if you want to see it. It's Hunter saying in interview after interview, is that your laptop? It could be. I don't know. One interviewee said, are you missing a laptop? And he goes, I don't know. I mean, look, I have like 2 laptops that I own. One's sitting in front of me, the other one. I know when I'm missing my laptop. How do the guy answering it, that was BS. Then there's a point where they're asking Joe Biden, and he says this is Russian disinformation and all a scam. And no one in the media who talks about spreading misinformation, no one who lied about the veracity and legitimacy of this laptop are being held accountable at all.
Well, I mean, are you surprised?
No.
This is what happens when there is complete dominance of one party over an entire media structure. Thank goodness for podcasts like yours and independent conservative media. It's like a David versus the Goliath, because absolutely they've railed about disinformation and misinformation on everything from COVID to to what we're seeing with Hunter Biden and the laptop and the Russiagate hoax. But they're never going to go back and clean it up, because that's going to force them to admit their own naked bias, and they don't want to get rid of that bias. They want to continue to hold water for Biden, ensure that he gets back in a few months from now, or stays in office in a few months from now, and protect Kamala Harris, so that hopefully there could be a continuation of the Obama legacy. So yeah, you're not going to see, and I'm sorry, you guys were right at all this time. I think it's incumbent on folks like us to continue to say, no, you were wrong, you were wrong, you were wrong. And, maybe the message gets out there.
And let me just point out, I think you're right. The accountability piece is going to be a big factor in this election. For people who don't remember, there was a letter that went out from 51 intelligence agents, who said that this computer had the markings of a Russian disinformation, a Russian operation, et cetera. So only one of 2 things can be true. One, these 51 agents don't have the ability to spot real Russian disinformation, which is a huge problem. Or 2, they can and just lied about it.
Right. Which
Either
is it? Are you
way,
incompetent or a liar? But that's it. I'm glad you made that point, because that, to me, by the way, CNN's going to host the first debate, and they are complicit and guilty in spreading this misinformation. You think that's going to come up? No. In fact, when Donald Trump tried to bring it up in the debates last time, and you remember, was it Leslie Stahl and a couple of the other people were like, you can't discuss this? And now we know it's completely true. Look, I mean, guys.
And if you don't think the weaponization of government is real, remember the FBI knew at that moment it was real and not Russian disinformation, and they didn't say a word.
And now they and their bosses at DOJ are using it as evidence. I mean, this is, you cannot get richer than this. All right, let me ask you this. I want to go around the horn. I'll start with you, Patrice. Hunter Biden, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
No, will he be found? Not is he.
Oh, will he be found guilty? No.
You can still say guilty. I don't care. I just want to make sure I'm asking.
I don't think he'll be found guilty. No.
Well, no, he is guilty. I will give you that. Marc Lotter, is Hunter Biden going to be found guilty by a true jury of his peers in Delaware with a sympathetic jury?
With a jury in a city that's got 600 people that all know the Bidens? No, will not be found. Will be found not guilty.
Right, Hogan,
hung jury, gone. It's going to be not guilty.
Yeah,
he's not going to face any criminal.
No, he's not. And this gets back to this idea of, we said we'd try it, and then it's a contrast. My son's not guilty, but you're a convicted felon. I've said this on the podcast the other day. Just keep in mind, this was never about Trump going to jail or appeals or anything like this. This was about a bumper sticker. All they cared about was being able to say convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. They don't care where it ends.
It will be like the laptop. 6 months after the election, that'll suddenly be real. They'll be like, oh, we overturned this because it was garbage and there were all these mistakes made.
No, it's going to do that. All right, I want to turn a little differently, kind of out of politics, but not. This Caitlin Clark thing that's been happening. So we all saw the check, right? So she's down there right underneath the hoop. She gets checked. And now there's this big controversy about whether everyone's giving Caitlin Clark too much credit. I don't really get this, because I look at what Tiger Woods did for golf, what Michael Jordan did for basketball, what Danica Patrick did for NASCAR. I mean, like, it brought more people into the sport, and there's no question about it. That's just a good thing, and it's a fact. I mean, the fact is, Caitlin Clark signed with this team in Indiana, and then broadcast went nuts. Seats got sold. Okay, and you all benefit. And now that's like these people are saying, I paved the ground and this is unfair to give her credit. Patrice, what is it? What am I missing here? Because I feel like now Stephen A. Smith, they're going after him. They're going after Barkley, saying that they just don't get it, that they haven't spent enough time in the WNBA. No one's spent time in the WNBA because until Clayton Clark came, no one even knew what the hell it was.
Well, here's what's controversial. I'm going to be controversial here. Unless I don't know if we know what her sexuality is, but if she is a heterosexual white young woman, she's straight. So that is the issue. And I'm sad to put it so starkly like that, but the WNBA comprised of a lot of people who are part of the LGBTQ community. Totally fine, that's great. But she is the opposite of that, and she's bringing attraction to the WNBA because she doesn't fit the cookie cutter mold of a lot of the other players. And I think that is the undercurrent. It's not going to be in the headlines. It's not going to be in the opinion pieces. But I think that's the undercurrent. She's not a woman of color. She's not part of the LGBTQ community. And so therefore, why should she be the poster woman for this professional sports league when you have all these other people who are? I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Disclaimer for every organization I represent. I'm not trying to say anything untoward about any community, but I think that's really what's going on.
Mark, the funny thing is, Patrice brought it up. Until I read one of these articles, I didn't realize how the league was full. I mean, I don't know which story it was. CNN, I think, had a piece on it. And it was like, the league is full of LGBTQ. And I was like, I didn't know that. Like, I mean, it's funny. Like, suddenly this has become a sexuality/race issue as opposed to just being like, hey, we're excited. I mean, if someone tells me, like, I lead into Bill O'Reilly, right? And if I find out that they're bringing more viewers to the first, and great, good for me. I'm excited. Like, this idea that we're all pissed at her for making the WNBA get lifted up, that's good for them. Why are they pissed?
Yeah, and that's the question. I mean, and in full disclosure, I'm from Indiana. I'm
an
Indiana Fever fan. And I'm very excited that she's playing for our team. But here's the difference, though. Look, I have no problem what color, sexuality you are. There are a lot of heralded rookies who, get the welcome to the league moment. And by the way, they should. But if you're going to take cheap shots, that's where I draw the line. Right. I have no problem with a linebacker taking out the number 1 overall draft pick quarterback, and give him a little shove on the ground saying, welcome to the NFL, son. That's fine. It's a legal sports move. What they're doing to her is not. And by the way, she got you private charter planes.
Right.
You're not flying commercial anymore.
You're not flying.
Here, Mark is right. And what's so fascinating to me, you brought up Michael Jordan, Sean. You brought up Tiger Woods. Do you remember when Tiger Woods came on the scene, what the purses were, what the take-home pay was for golfers? It went up like 250-fold. Because people started watching golf, playing golf, becoming invested in golf. There have been some great WNBA players in the past, of course, but that's not what this is about, building the league or foundational people. This is about someone coming in that people want to watch and are interested in, who is interesting. Watcher, it means more money for the league and more money for everybody else. Now, I understand there was a backlash for a while from Tiger because everyone else has been playing golf for a while, and this new kid comes on the block and he's getting all the eyes and the follows, and everyone loves him to death, and all the other golfers are kind of obscure, unknown. So I understand there's probably some of that jealousy in here too. But Tiger Woods did incredible things for the game of golf, and it remains to be seen how great she's going to make basketball in the WNBA. But right now, she's bringing more butts to the seats, eyes to the TV. She's making you more money.
Right.
What's the problem?
All right, I want to end it as I do every Thursday by going around the horn quick and just saying, ask me or tell me who you think your winner and the loser of the week are. Patrice, we'll start with you.
My loser of the week is Hunter Biden. I certainly think that he has demonstrated in many ways why, he deserves that title. My winner of the week, I'll say Caitlin Clark is the winner of the week. We didn't see her out. We didn't see her. She didn't have to defend herself. I mean, I think she's just trying to keep focused and stay in being a good,
she was classy
actor and a good player. And that's important.
All right, Mark.
Winner of the week, Donald Trump. You don't raise $300 million in like 5 days. No one's ever done that. Loser, Joe Biden. I think everything has been a disaster from the Hunter trial to the immigration fiasco. It's not been a good week.
Hogan.
Yeah, I don't know how to compete with that. I was going to say the exact same thing. I mean, Donald Trump raising the money he raised, getting
the campaign money, the super PAC money, the donations from Miriam Adelson. I mean, win.
Win.
By the way, I said this yesterday real quick, just as a reminder. Money was a huge issue until this month, and now suddenly it's going to be money bad. Once Donald Trump overtook Joe Biden, it's like how dark money in politics, bad money. So, all right, I'm just going to say this real quick. I agree. Caitlin Clark was a winner because she was a class act. I think that was what defined it to me. Against all this adversity, she had a chance to say, hey, whatever, and she took it like a champ. That's the thing. The loser of the week, I think, is anyone who's going to watch TLC's Baldwin show with Alec Baldwin and Hilaria. I think that's her name. I can't even, I don't know. Maybe she's changed it because she fakes it. But the idea that they're giving a show to someone who is accused of murder and someone who faked being Hispanic really tells you everything you need to know about Hollywood when we're the bad guys on the right. And yet it's like, hey, I got this idea for you. Let's go find the guy who shot somebody and his wife who fakes being Hispanic and give them a show. That just tells you how bad we are. Always enjoy being with you guys. Thanks so much. Tomorrow on the show, Carrie Lake's going to be here. Plus, John McGuire just got endorsed by Trump in Virginia. This is going to be big, big, big. They're here tomorrow. Thanks for all you do to support the show. Continue to subscribe. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iTunes, I this, I that, I heart. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.